The smirks vanished when the 63-year-old veteran stepped up to the SEAL qualification course. By the time the last shot echoed through the facility, the only sound left was dead silence, and the reality that everyone had just witnessed something extraordinary. What happened next would rewrite the record books and force an entire shooting range to confront their deepest assumptions about who deserves respect. The oppressive Texas heat seemed to follow Jerome Winslow through the doors of Pine Ridge Tactical Center. At 63, with his weathered army jacket and worn boots, he looked like someone who'd taken a wrong turn on his way to the hardware store. The facility buzzed with the typical crowd, younger shooters cleaning their weapons, instructors strutting with military precision, and an atmosphere thick with unspoken judgments. Behind the front desk stood Colonel Richard Halverson, a man whose rigid posture and perpetual scowl suggested he'd never met a civilian he couldn't intimidate. His eyes swept over Jerome with the kind of dismissive glance reserved for obvious tourists. "You lost?" Halverson asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. "I'd like to rent a lane," Jerome replied calmly. The colonel's laugh was sharp. "Rental lanes require certification. We don't just hand out rifles to tourists." Near the vending machine, two younger shooters exchanged knowing looks. Trey Lohman, cocky and in his 20s, whispered to his friend, "What's Grandpa doing here? Probably retired before half our equipment was even invented." Jerome heard every word but didn't flinch. He'd faced worse critics in much deadlier situations. "I'm certified. 28 years Army service." Halverson's eyebrow lifted slightly, but respect didn't follow. Instead, he slid a waiver across the counter with theatrical reluctance. "Lane 6. Standard M4. SEAL qualification targets, if you have them," Jerome added quietly. The request hit the room like a thunderclap. Halverson's smirk widened into something almost predatory. "You sure about that, soldier?" "Yeah." What happened next would transform skepticism into stunned silence. Jerome moved to lane 6 with the measured pace of someone who'd walked through far more hostile territory than a Texas shooting range. He methodically checked his weapon, loaded magazines with practiced precision, and settled into position. The first target popped up at 50 yards. 2 shots, clean hits, under 2 seconds. Trey's casual confidence wavered. "Okay, maybe that was luck." The second target moved laterally across a narrow window. Jerome tracked it with minimal movement, firing twice more. Both shots found their mark. "Wait a minute," Gwen, the assistant range manager, muttered as she watched the digital readout. Jerome was clearing targets at SEAL Phase 2 timing, and he hadn't missed once. Behind the observation glass, the crowd was growing. Even the range instructors were abandoning their posts to watch. Jerome moved through the qualification course like he was navigating familiar territory, each shot deliberate and devastating. The kneeling sequence, the speed drills, the dynamic movement challenges, every phase fell before his methodical precision. The digital leaderboard, which had stood unchanged for months, suddenly flickered with new entries. Not just beating the existing records, but obliterating them. "Sir," Gwen's voice cracked slightly, "he just tied the top SEAL score, with 3 phases left." Halverson's confidence crumbled. "That leaderboard's not calibrated right." "You told me last week it was dead accurate," Gwen replied, her tone carrying the weight of uncomfortable truth. In the gear room afterward, Jerome cleaned his weapon with the same methodical care he'd shown throughout the exercise. Sean Delgado, a Texas Ranger with a scar across his jaw, approached cautiously. "Mind if I ask where you learned to shoot like that?" "Nowhere special," Jerome replied without looking up. "That's not true. I've seen Nowhere Special, and it doesn't look like that. That was surgical." Jerome's eyes met his. "Long time ago." "You're Jerome Winslow," Delgado said suddenly. "You trained my unit in '98, before Kosovo. I still quote your line about breathing through fear." The revelation rippled through the room. Trey, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped forward awkwardly. I didn't mean anything earlier. I didn't think. You didn't think I could shoot, Jerome finished for him. You ever lose someone on your six because your shot was half a second late? Ever pull a man out of a sand pit while enemy rounds come from 3 sides? Trey shook his head silently. Then you don't know what skill looks like. Not really. Jerome's tone softened. But you could, if you respect the craft. If you stop thinking skill comes with age or skin or swagger. The PA system crackled. Shooter Winslow to the front desk. Colonel Halverson would like a word. Jerome walked back through the facility to find Halverson waiting, his military bearing now tinged with something approaching humility. Impressive record, Halverson began. You've been out a long time, but I'd like to offer you something. Instructor position. Part-time, if you want. Jerome tilted his head. You offering me a job, Colonel? I am. I didn't come here for work. I came to shoot. The exchange hung in the air like gun smoke. Jerome had shattered more than shooting records, he'd demolished assumptions about worth, capability, and respect. The final scoreboard told the story. Winslow dominated every category. Dynamic movement fire, 100% accuracy. SEAL qualification course, 97.8%. Close quarters precision, 98.3%. Each entry pushing previous record holders into distant second place. As Jerome packed his gear, Trey approached one final time. That was the cleanest run I've ever seen. Ever. Assumptions are shortcuts that never get you to the right place, Jerome replied. Come back tomorrow. I'll give you 2 drills that'll change your grip forever. Walking to his truck, Jerome carried more than his rifle case. He carried the weight of proved worth, the satisfaction of silenced skeptics, and the knowledge that respect, once earned, echoes far beyond the moment it's given. The Pine Ridge Tactical Center would never be the same. Neither would anyone who witnessed what happens when prejudice meets precision, when dismissal encounters discipline, and when one man's quiet competence reshapes an entire room's understanding of what real skill looks like. Before we continue, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if stories like this resonate with you, tales of underdogs proving their worth against all odds, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got more incredible stories of people who refuse to be underestimated. Because sometimes the most powerful statement isn't what you say, it's what you do when everyone's watching.